This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers from the world Sarah J. Maas has created, including the Crescent City series, with mentions of Veronica Speedwell and The Cruel Prince. For full list, please see show notes.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the fantasy, literature, and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are wishing ourselves happy birthday. Happy birthday, ACOFAE. And to celebrate, we are revisiting Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood.
Which I'm really excited about because happy birthday, ACOFAE. Happy birthday, me. Happy birthday, me. And we are revisiting House of Earth and Blood because when we launched and started this podcast on December 21st, 2020, we've, of course, had our introductory episode, but Crescent City was the first book that we discussed. And we have revisited Hosab at some point. We've revisited some books as we were getting into new releases. But in honor of our 5-year anniversary and our 5-year birthday, we are revisiting the book that kind of started our conversations, even though it was ACOTAR in general. So here we are. And Laura, this is, correct me if I'm wrong, the first time you're reading or you've reread Crescent City since we first recorded the episode.
Well, you are correct. And oh my gosh, do I have so much to say. So much. We're going to get another 1-star review. It's going to be insane. I am responsible for that 1-star review, in case you're wondering. That is my fault.
I don't even remember what you said that made somebody so viscerally upset. To be like, this is the worst podcast ever.
Viscerally angry. It was our ACOFAE or ACOMAF revisiting
revisiting ACOMAF, but I don't remember what was said. Yeah. They were like, they hate it. How do you hate it? And I was like, well, did you listen to all our episodes? Because we also really, really loved it.
Well, here's the thing about this. So we're going to get another 1-star review. Why I say that? Because this book was fascinating to reread. Again, like Jessica Marie says, I haven't touched it since 2020 just because, one, it's long. 2, it is hard to read because it is emotional in the first 5 chapters. It is emotional for the last 2 hours. It's hard. It's hard. And then in the middle, there's a murder mystery. It is a big, hefty book that you have to use your brain for. The Danika and Bryce story, I am so familiar with that kind of pulls me through. And to my stunning disbelief, I guess, rereading this, I am shocked to my core that Hunt Athalar has fans.
Yeah, I feel like we've been saying that for a while. And here's the thing. I'm interested in hearing we all have our, MMCs that we love. Hunt is not ours. I can say that confidently for both of us. I will say I have been since day one championing Rundanon before everybody was like, Hosab, Rundanon knew 3 things with absolute certainty. No, I was there from the beginning. I have loved him. But it's interesting with Hunt, objectively, he's hot as hell. I'm not denying that. But he is not kind to Bryce. He's very condescending. And maybe it's it's interesting because we are such enemies to lovers girlies. But I feel like there was a difference between enemies and condescension.
Yeah. And he's a cop. So there's that. Let's all he's a cop. We don't love that. We don't, Bryce, what are we doing? What are we doing? He's a cop.
Well, her dad is in the military.
That's
so
different.
That's
different. Those are different things. Those are different things. They should be different, though. They should be different things. Here's something else. So revisiting this, happy birthday to us, 5 years. What has happened in these 5 years? We have
and full spoilers for
full
Sarah J.
spoilers.
Maas.
Yeah.
This isn't just Earth and Blood. This is the entire, if you've read every Sarah J. Maas, this is going to be in that vein. So here's your heads up.
Yeah, but we're going to try to stay really focused on Earth and Blood because this is the foundation. This is where our podcast kicked off. I pitched this to Jessica as a book about friendship, very, very, very light on romance. This was very special for Jessica Marie. I remember you had a lot to say about this when this first came out. Let's set the tone. When this first came out, this was Sarah J. Maas's first foray into adult writing. It was
an urban fantasy too.
It was criticized heavily. People did not like this when it came out. Now, still, people say the first 100 pages of this book is the hardest thing they've ever read. It is. I mean, which it's not. It's not. It's
honestly, I don't know if I'm so familiar with fantasy. I didn't feel like the first 100 pages were hard even then. But again, it's because I was so pulled into the storyline and the friendship of Bryce and Danika, and the transition wasn't really difficult going from, I think I did ACOTAR, then I did The Cruel Prince, which you had suggested, then I started Shatter Me, and then I went into Crescent City. So I mean, having some modern, I was already familiar with fantasy, so this just felt like a natural thing. And I even told you, I don't want to do Throne of Glass yet. I heard it's going to kill me. I want to save that for last.
Yeah. And this, I pitched it, friendship, light on the romance, heavy on everything. The reread, amazing for me, just because just socially a lot of things have happened. For example, we have had the social trend of what is your Roman Empire? Well, I think we can all very confidently say that Crescent City is Sarah J. Maas's Roman Empire. And that is something that 5 years ago I was very much not looking to. I mean, this is so clearly the Roman Empire. This is so clear, the internal city. This is very much. But when I read this for the first time, I was very much expecting and anticipating a unique world magic system that when she presented this and then just plopped Rome on top of it, I was not noticing it so much because I kept thinking it's going to go, it's going to go. But it just kept reinforcing these Roman stereotypes, this Roman way of life, the atmosphere, the trees. And I remember in our episodes, we were going through this. We're well, this is very clearly a Mediterranean setting. We were talking about that. But now, just with all this extra spotlights that all of this time has given us, it's oh, well, that is clearly what this is. The insignias, the tattoos, all of this stuff. But it was so and all of this religious implications, all of this context. It's just very interesting to read this again with all of these things that have happened. Just to tack on a little bit more to that, now being so familiar with the Bryce and Danika story, I was able to focus much more on what else is going on in the plot. And that was one of the most enjoyable parts of this reread to me, Jessica Marie.
Do you feel I'm trying to think, do you feel being able to, it was all, Sarah had put the foundation there since the beginning. You know how when we have the discussion of crime procedurals, that it's always somebody in the first 5 chapters. It's always, there's a certain pattern that's followed. Do you feel one that happened here? Because when we first discussed Earth and Blood, we didn't discuss the pattern, something that had connected. And then 2, do you feel like you had more theories? Because I feel like when we first read this, it was no theories, all vibes. And then as more books were being released, because when we read this, it had just been released in March 2020. And then ACOFAE hadn't been out yet. Obviously, the following Crescent City books hadn't come out yet. And I don't think we were thinking about theories and this, that, the other thing of how everything would be connected. Do you feel like this reread allowed you to create theories, or you're like, no, I'm straight up vibing now that I know where the story went?
Great question. Great question. Well, longtime listeners will know I hate theorizing. I hate it. I feel like if you theorize and you put so much time, thought, and effort into your theory and it turns out to be wrong, then you are crushed for reasons that you have created only for yourself. And then you end up in this like weird kind of spiral. So I don't love theorizing. However, Jessica Marie, the pattern, specifically ACOFAE's pattern, which is, does everything check out for this book in the first 5 chapters? Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. This fits the ACOFAE pattern completely within this book. And if you stretch it within the context of the universe, however, ask me how they end up in space. I couldn't tell you, but that's how they do. And I can't necessarily get there from here. I mean, I guess you can, but anyway, I just think that is one of the more fascinating aspects of this book. Just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful shit. However, does it fit? I'm a little bit annoyed because I think if you go to chapter 10, then this book wraps up really nicely with the pattern. Now, just because you get everything that you kind of need, because all right. Anyway, I don't, there's minutia that I don't want to get into. However, from in between 2020 and now in December 2025, I have read probably about 60 crime procedural books. And those. Oh,
that's right. Cause I was like 60. And
I just keep going.
If you are listening and you listened to our Thankful 2025 episode this year in November, you'll know how quickly Laura has been going with a couple different crime procedurals that are like quick hits for her that she's flying through one a day almost.
I have moved on to the Veronica Speedwell mysteries, and I'm currently in An Impossible Imposter, and these are by Deanna Raybourn. They are fantastic. They're about 12 hours at speed, so I cut them down to about 7 at a nice 175. All right, not sponsored, of course. Anyway, moving on. But crime procedural books like that have taught me, and Criminal Minds and Law and Order, and what was the weird forensic ones? SVU.
Bones.
Bones, sort of. Bones doesn't really fit because you just see the bones first and you don't see just in that opening shot. Okay, anyway, you're getting me off track. But for the crime procedurals in the books and for a very standard crime procedural on TV, without a gimmick, just like straight up crime, it is the first person that you encounter that hasn't been established in the plot yet. So that person is the angel that Bryce is putting back together in the alley after the attack that she chases out. And that person is Micah, and that person is responsible for everything that happens in this book. So within that context, yes, absolutely. I mean,
I forgot that Micah, because there were a couple things where you're like, oh my God, I forgot this happened. I forgot Micah was the guy in the alley.
Yeah, I remember. I agree with you. I also forgot that Micah was in the alley because, again, I'm focused on the friendship between Bryce and Danika and the vilification that has happened of Danika since this book and in the next books in this series. But it was interesting. So I was like, oh my God, that's Micah. So that has to be, then it fits, and then it's all, so it all very much fits the pattern. It all wraps up very nicely. I honestly, Jessica Marie, here's my thing. I wish Bryce had gone to Rune a couple like a couple chapters before, and then he had seen all of the starlight around her, and then I would say that, like, yes, 100% wraps up, but she doesn't do that until a couple of chapters later. So,
well, with the starlight all around her, he was like high. I feel like he saw it because he was so high. That's what it was. He didn't recognize it with any other conversation. Oh, and then of course, when Hunt makes her come, she's like all like coming down from her orgasmic starlight, whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, that happens in Hosab. But everybody was just like taking it as like this euphoric thing. Not that, no, she's legitimately starborn, y'all.
Yeah, she's legitimately starborn. So here's something. I love this book. I love this book. This is the book. This is the foundation. This is like, you know, that you lay the brick. And the Bryce and Danika friendship in this book is, I think, one of the best friendships that I have seen written, and one of the most authentic. And Bryce is one of the most like wonderful characters. Like, you know, what is so wrong with being a party girl? What, you know, you let them assume all of these things, you know, all of this stuff. However, let's talk about, you know, the women are great. The women are great. The women are great. Are Fury and Juniper great friends? Debatable. I'm going to lean to no. Fury especially. No, let's expand on that. Why? Because, one star. Because, Fury, I understand that everybody has, the capacity for grief, and that grief displays itself in different ways in different people. I understand this. However, I do feel that it is very selfish to ignore phone calls for 2 years. 2 years.
Well, and this is okay. So rereading Earth and Blood, you know, I think we've established this with some of the other books that we've read, where there are trauma bonds, and trauma bonds exist not just in the books that we read, but in real life. I can, as much as I don't like Hunt, I can understand the trauma bond. Bryce keeps reaching out her hand, quote, I'll pull a quote from ACOFAE that everybody loves so much with Nesta, keeps reaching out her hand to her friends, and they're not showing up. So then she gets to a point where she's like, I'm going to be hyper independent. And to be hyper independent while working through your depression and grief is very hard. So when Hunt comes in, might not be the best person, but he eventually is the person that is consistent and is showing up. I can understand why she's like, well, he's here, and he's seen me at my worst, and he's still here. Even if it's by court order or whatever, even if it starts off as a job, he still showed up when my best girlfriends didn't. And then even when, and again, like Fury, you know, takes accountability because Bryce calls her out on it, like friends do. Hey, you're telling me you're going to call tomorrow, but like you said the same thing 2 years ago, and here we are. Like, is this bullshit? And, you know, they kind of hash it out, but Fury's like, well, Juniper's different. And Bryce, you know, and like, this is how like Fury has essentially told Bryce that she's in love with Juniper. But all Bryce said was, well, I didn't know it was like that. So, okay, let's talk about this, because when we want to talk about character assassinations, everybody's like, best friends. Like, Danika's not a friend because she didn't tell her about her mate and this, that, the other thing. Where are we holding the other characters with that same commentary? Because Fury didn't say anything. Juniper didn't say anything. It's one of my things. I've said this before. Why are we applying certain theories and certain conversations for one character because we don't want to like them, but not applying that same thing with everyone then.
Yeah. And I do really feel like that people dismiss time. Time is long. Like, I'm sorry. I really feel like in Throne of Glass, Aelin's like, it's been 10 years. That's a fuck ton of time. That's a fuck ton of time. Here, 2 years is a hell of a long time. Like, sorry, it is. So I would be absolutely livid. First of all, I would not keep reaching out my hand. We know this. We know this. We know
well,
this.
Because that's to an extent. It's not like you've never reached out your hand.
Not for 2 years. Not continuously.
No. You have
for 2 years.
You have a level of respect for yourself to be like, you know what?
That's the thing too. But also, like, damn. And then the other argument is like, well, where was Fury? Like, Fury was in a bad place that she couldn't even. Fury was talking to Juniper. Fury, that's the thing.
That's the thing. She didn't isolate everybody because she even said, like, I felt, because at first Fury's like, look, I'm dealing with the grief differently. I lost I lost one of my best friends. I lost another one, to depression and almost like an ODing with the drugs that I prescribed, like I got for you. So like, I can understand Fury's internal, conflict and her grief and how she was processing, but she didn't isolate everybody.
Yeah, and that is just like twisting a dagger. Like,
yeah.
For Bryce, knowing that Bryce is alone and isolated.
So Juniper's good at, you want to talk about confidence and self-worth, then you have like and while she is working through her grief and depression, it's the internal dialogue of, oh, well, so she's good enough and I'm not.
Oh, yes. That's a fantastic thing too. The self-worth thing, Jessica, that you bring up. Of course, you bring up the best points. Everybody is in Bryce's ear about how this job with Jessica is a dead end job. Tell me how. How is this not the opportunity of a fucking lifetime? How is this a bad job? I do not understand why everybody is in her head about this.
I think it's like a societal expectation and the connotation of her being, quote, an assistant, which like that happens in real life. But I also have to think like, there were times that there was a time I was an assistant on a very small team, and this is Bryce, it's just her and one other person. The opportunities that I had as an assistant in entertainment in New York, as opposed to assistants in LA who have to run and grab their boss coffee, run and do this. No, I had a boss and half a boss who would introduce people as like, this isn't my assistant. This is a member. This is Jessica. She's a new member of our team. To like right and the opportunity, and he was like, I would say, oh, I'm gonna grab coffee, do you need one? And he would say, I can actually get my own coffee, but I appreciate you asking. Thanks. Like, that is unheard of. So these opportunities that Bryce is getting, I feel like she's letting other people influence. Like, I think they just gave her that title. She really was an antiquities dealer. She was a sales associate and, arguably not only lead associate, she is also hunting down like the research component that she has to be involved with and manage the relationships in order to secure a deal, in order to bring in the income for Jessica. So Jessica can focus on the bigger things that she's doing. It wasn't a small job. She might not have been happy, but the experience that she was gaining and the relationships that allowed her, and Hunt even said it at one point to Ember, look, she's able to wheel and deal. And I have been doing this job for years. I am 228 years old, and she is dancing circles around me, getting the information. There's a reason we went to her.
Yeah. But again, it's just all these people just like in Bryce's head telling her that she has no self-worth, which is just like crazy. And because again, just as you say, another excellent point, they go to the meat market and she's like, he helps me with this and she helps me with that. And I know this guy, I'm going to sweet talk this guy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And Hunt is just like, well, I'm a cop, so I don't know anything.
And he doesn't, because the amount of times that his dialogue is, Hunt didn't even think. Hunt didn't even realize. I know you didn't realize. I'm quite aware Thank you, Hunt Athalar.
Hunt Athalar, woo. Let's talk about Hunt Athalar a little bit.
Do we?
Yeah. Yeah, Hunt, because you said it in the beginning of the episode, Jessica Marie. Hunt Athalar is not nice to Bryce, and he's not nice to Bryce. I mean, in the beginning, obviously, this is like an enemies to lovers, forced proximity, you know, whatever. But it's not just like, oh, like he's bullying her. It's not like he's holding a knife to her throat. It's not like there's like this like quick-witted banter.
She's quick. She's good. She's onto her shit.
But his internal thoughts are, she's stupid. His internal thoughts are, she is a waste of space. She has no idea what is going on. Everything that
half a brain. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways that people are who just doubt her. Honestly,
like, him specifically, though.
Him specifically.
He says that she is stupid, either out loud or in his head, and he says a version of, "Are you stupid? Don't be stupid. She can't be this stupid." He says,
did she even think?
He says, but like stupid specifically. He says it over and over and over again. And half of it she is not aware of.
No, she's not aware of. But even when, you know, right out the gate, when she's getting her manicure done, he's just thinking she's so vapid and vain. And like, just again, it adds to his internal dialogue that she has no idea. She knew about the nails, the manicure, and she's like, "Hey, here's the connection to everything, dumbass." And he's like, "Oh," tail between his legs, because she knew he was. I feel like she had an inkling, and she had to constantly prove herself with him.
Yeah. And like, yeah, I understand it's part of like his character development, that like he sees her in a new light and he appreciates her and he realizes that like all of this is I get that.
Yeah.
And I understand that. But to start off by thinking that she is stupid is just, I don't know. I just don't, it's icky. It's icky. It's just, like you said, condescending. And that's like the perfect way to do it. He's just like looking down at her. And she already has that from like everybody in her life, people looking down on her because Bryce is half fae. But like to know that Hunt himself is not the smartest. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. He's not the sharpest crayon in the box. He consistently and repeatedly says the plan out loud in front of the people that
every single book we've had him in. Every single book. How many times have I had to ask you, wait a second, I just did a reread and did they leave? Did I oversee? You were like, nope, they stood there the whole time. I go, he said that in front of the bad guys the whole time. You go, yes, he did. I go, okay.
Yeah. He just said it again here too. He's just like spouting out, you know, he's got something to say. It's just like, and again, just as you said, like Hunt didn't realize, like he's the one that is stupid. So he's projecting, if you ask me. But I just think it is this cruel way to characterize this woman that you are going to fall in love with. And like, again, this is like a me thing. I don't like bully romances. I just don't feel like a bully is somebody that you should reward with your love. Fuck them. And, you know, fuck them for the way that they made you feel. Like, that's terrible. Don't forgive them. Make them feel the same way. But that's me. I just don't like it. You know, and I'm not just going to say that about Hunt. Rune, I know you love Rune just so much. Rune also.
But you could hate on him. You could shit on him too. I totally get it if you are.
He thinks it a couple times too. Way less than Hunt. Less than Hunt. But he still does too.
I mean, and they had the sibling fight where they do some low blows and he's just like, you're flirting with my friends. You're a party girl. You're a half-breed slut. Like it was a below the belt hit. Absolutely. And he acknowledges that. And she's like, fuck you. You're dead to me. Don't acknowledge me whatsoever. But there does have to be an acknowledgement. And I feel like, obviously, if there's a relationship to have in this book, the best male relationship that grows from this book isn't, I know people will want to say Bryce and Hunt, but it's Bryce and Rune, because even when you go into Hosab, you have him using his Damati powers and mind speaking to each other, and everybody starts picking up on it. And it's this special sibling bond that they realize, because he's had her back this whole time and he's wanted to make amends. I mean, she's not ignoring him completely. It's interesting because she's reaching out her hand to Fury for 2 years and Dead Air, and Rune has been essentially doing the same thing. And she kind of like does ignore him, but doesn't, or is just like rolls her eyes at the whole thing. But there is some sort of level of engagement because, she's still, she knows Declan, she knows Flynn, and they're all within the same court. And if people read bonus chapters, they would know that too, because Bryce will go off with Flynn every now and then.
Bonus chapters. Jessica Marie had me read the bonus chapter in
Hofast. It was the indie bonus chapter with Bryce and Danika.
Yes. And that takes place like 2 days before
it's right before this picks up. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like 2 days before this book starts. It's when they decide to go get their tattoos. And that is really special. And all it did was reinforce the fact that I really just dislike Hunt. Because we were talking about Hunt. Let's talk about him again. I cannot get over the lying. I can't get over the lying. I can't get over the gaslighting. I can't get over the, she's a fucking drug addict. Hey, sorry. That's just what it is, Bryce. You have this glorified version of Danika in your brain, but what she actually was just a drug addict, and it killed her and everybody that she loves. So yeah. And he is like so confident in that. He is like, yes, that is what this is. And his involvement again, and Jesse said it's all there from the beginning, and it is, because Hunt has in his like thoughts that he has, it's like, I have one goal. My one goal is like to get this fucking halo off my head. He says at the beginning, like that's what he would do. And he has this plot with Justinian and Victoria. Victoria. And they have a plot, and that's the thing. Like he has that plot, and he is working that plot way longer than it seems. Cause we're in it, we're in the story, but whoa.
Because he's talking to Isaiah about it. He's like, if you had to redo it all over again, knowing how he's like, you have it. Cause Isaiah, the thing with Isaiah is he is very by the book. He understands the government is corrupt. He understands the propaganda that's happening, but he's in survival mode. If I do A plus B equals C, let me not ruffle any feathers. This is my end goal. I want to be with my family, whatever it is. Isaiah's very like, let's just do the job, clock in, clock out, call it a day. It doesn't need to be this whole thing. And Hunt is like, we need to rebel. I'm a constant rebellion failure, but let's try again with just 3 people. We're going to take them down. We're going to take the synth and then take everybody down at the comitium. And you're like, that's not even a plan, my guy.
No, because let's talk about what the plan was. The plan was to get all of the synth, inject everybody that wanted to rebel. Somehow that synth injection would break their halos somehow. It would heal them somehow.
This is all theoretical.
They have no idea.
Nobody has ever even experimented. How about we see how we interact with synth first before doing these plans?
Nah, fuck it, gang, let's go. So, and they do. They're on the boat, right? The only reason Hunt is like, nah, is because he sees the secret files that Bryce found. Here's the thing. If he had not seen that video, he was going to go through with it. He was going to do it. It doesn't matter what he was feeling about Bryce or whatever. If he had not seen that the synth was dangerous, he was going to go through with a second rebellion.
Despite how he felt with Bryce, he's lucky that Bryce trusted him enough. She could have not shown him at all. She could have just called Rune up, since they were already working on the back end of things for the tech side, like Declan was.
Yeah. So what was he gonna do? They were gonna rebel again and like take down the angels and like republic. Like, are you shitting me? I just cannot. But again, this really just kind of goes like Hunt is like a follower. He's just a follower. He's not even though he says he's a leader, right? They say like, oh, you're a leader.
I forgot. Yeah, I think they do it again. And he's like, oh, everybody's seeking to me to be like general and this, that, the other thing.
He's not. He is not. He is a follower. He follows the strongest woman in the room.
Yes, because that's what happened with Shahar. And Sandriel and Shahar are sisters. Shahar, and then she meets her demise, and but you're absolutely right. You know who he is? He's broke boyfriend who comes up by the girl, the woman in their life. You know, have you ever seen those memes where it's like the broke boyfriend will like go up behind their woman who's paying for everything, who's running shit, and he's just like, hey baby, and they that's who he is.
Yeah. He will follow the strongest woman in the room, and the strongest one
as he should, but at the same time, I'm like, as he should,
But like again, it's just like, but that's his like reasoning. So what was he gonna do? Whatever. But the betrayal and the gaslighting, the slander against Danika is the thing. And it is so difficult and to me would be absolutely unforgivable because he's doing it solely to cover his own ass is the thing. And the things that he says, which turn out to be so untrue, are so viciously thrown at her because he's feeling a certain way, because he's planning a rebellion, that again, I would never trust this person again.
And he never apologized unless there was because even when Bryce is getting a full confession out of Micah, actually, granted, Sabine doesn't give one either. Nobody does, and Bryce is the only one who has dug her heels in saying, y'all are acting like I don't know Danika. You all are the ones who don't know Danika because I'm the one who has been with her when we had to kill somebody to fight for our lives. Why she was releasing, basically an animal activist. Then when she was giving Briggs chances, Briggs even comes around to say, look, I fucked up there. She gave me the benefit of the doubt time and time and time again. And finally, she just rolled up with the pack. That's a me thing. Maybe not in this other investigation that you're looking into, but she gave me the benefit of the doubt more than one time. And honestly, you probably have a role in that because you're her best friend. You are half fae, half human, and she sees how you are treated differently as a minority, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, she is. She's full of civitas because her dad is the Autumn King. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting into it. I'm not theorizing. I don't care.
Oh.
I don't care. The Autumn King I don't care.
Oh, I didn't think we were going there. I don't even know that conversation. Wait, is it the one where people are like, they're the same king?
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care.
Well, you already know. I think ACOTAR Autumn King is the Burger King. So when they were describing the Autumn King here as he was like this really hot guy, I was like, you're not my Autumn King. No. You're very different. I never imagined Ymir, I think that's his name, attractive. I still didn't. I had to like disregard him as like an old frumpy fey dad.
It's like as an ick. Yeah, it's just like I'm not theorizing. I just can't get behind it. But it is just so difficult because if you go into book 2, book 3, whatever, the character assassination of Danika continues. And to the point where Bryce is frustrated enough where she's like, well, I guess I just didn't know this bitch at all. And that is just like, it is so frustrating. And let's talk about a little bit of character assassination. Because again, let's remember, I have not touched this book since 2020. This book is very emotional. As I said in the beginning, it is hard. It's hard to read. There's a huge emotional moment. Like Danika and the pack are found dead, in the first 5 chapters. And then we have, Lahaba and her sacrifice. We have Bryce making the drop. We have all of this coming up. Let's talk about Lahaba and her sacrifice. A sequence that when I read for the first time, I was sobbing. When I read for the second time, I was sobbing. I've read this a few times. When I read this time, a little teary-eyed. The tears were not falling. Let me tell you why. Because I was just so pissed off remembering how Bryce treats Lahaba and her memory in the later books as a fucking joke. And it was just like, well, I guess you don't remember what you were feeling here and these emotions, because what the fuck, how could you possibly besmirch her memory with your fucking sarcastic bullshit in the later books when you were talking about Lahaba, when she is sacrificing her life in the scariest imaginable moment for you to get away so that you can kill Micah, the governor? It's just like, I was so angry. And that is a conversation in and of itself too. It's like, Jess, you said it to me when we started recording. You would have been fine if this was a standalone.
Yeah. I mean, thinking about Lahaba, like I cried. I still cried. I cried even knowing our conversation about Hosab and saying like, it felt like she dismissed Lahaba's memory when she was coming in contact with the sprites, and it wasn't in a way that she locked down her emotions. And then, thinking about Rainthia, where we get her later in Hofast, like I was crying for not Bryce, but for Lahaba, for everything that she was sacrificing. I mean, she was already scared of the knock. She was terrified. Bryce, he does not like me. He wants to eat me. Jessica put him here to keep me in line. Like I am terrified down here all the time now because of this. Even though he can't leave the air, I'm still terrified. So she was already going through her trauma. Exposure therapy was not working for her. But to circle back to what you said, yeah, I feel like it took 5 years for this book to catch on. I feel like people are reading it now. Again, all SJM spoilers, knowing that there is connection between all of the books. So it's not just Easter eggs anymore. Or at least 2 of the book series so far. But it also ends. So like if this was a standalone, it was a great standalone. I feel like you had said there's character assassination. The character assassination specifically with Danika comes from arguably the community. I don't think so much Sarah. I feel like Sarah wrote that chapter to solidify. No, they were best friends. And I had sent this to you after you had read, you broke up and you're like, okay, I read the chapter. And if you are familiar with with Danika in that extra chapter, and knowing what we know now, we knew she uncovered everything. We knew she was living while she was dying. She knew her final days were upon her. Every interaction, I think it was easy for her to just dismiss and say, oh, Sabine pissed me off, because that was the easiest thing, because everything, she had the weight of the world and could not share it with anyone in those final moments. And she just had to hope to leave breadcrumbs for Bryce to piece it all together when she was ready. Because we know in this book, Bryce's mental state was, I don't even know how we were all friends, but on the dance floor when we hung out together, I feel like we were on equal footing. Danika had the weight of the world. This was before knowing what Danika knows. This was just her running the pack, knowing she was going to be prime. She already had a pack. Fury was out being a mercenary in the human lands, which I do kind of would always love to explore that theory if anybody wants to DM me. And then Juniper is pursuing this dream to be a principal at Crescent City Ballet, knowing that the world is against her because she's a fawn. So Bryce was like, for all intents and purposes, like, none of us make sense. But the dance floor, and when we went out, it did. And Danika knew that. Danika was her truest self with Bryce for what she was able to share with Bryce.
Yeah. And you make such a fantastic point. Again, hearkening back to our 1-star review in that episode.
Let's not manifest that. Maybe we can inspire constructive conversations and not aggressiveness.
But it's the same point that was brought up in that episode that I'm going to bring up here, which is that social media has a way of tinting your perspective on things like this. So in that conversation, it was, social media is kind of taking over some of these characters and giving them a personality that doesn't exist in the books. And I still feel like that conversation can be happening here. I do feel like social media can really skew the way that some of these characters are portrayed and giving them a bit of a personality outside of what's on the pages, which in some aspects is fine. But when that takes over, then it really colors the way that the character is received. And even though on page you can read it one way, if everybody in the world is screaming at you that, like, no, it's actually like this, like, that is the worst.
Yeah, I feel like people do that a lot with saying Hunt and Cassian are the same person because of the the persona, the online persona that's created for Cassian. Like, yes, he's kind of like, he has humor to him, but I also feel like that's a character assassination to Cassian and is, does a huge disservice. I love Cassian. To say that he's like Hunt, I'm like, ooh, no, I'm very protective of Cassian. He is a general who has not told the plot to the villain 3 books in a row and is like constantly honing his skills and learning. And every night he is reading and about war strategy, right? And do you, because of that, with what we know now in the 5 years that's been created, and it's like the blessing and the curse of the community, right? We want the community, but sometimes not everybody is can have the respectful conversations. We were talking about this earlier before we started recording, not with reading, but with fandoms and Taylor Swift specifically. People love to tell you when they hate something, and without allowing for some sort of discourse. And you were in a fortunate situation at one point where there was people you had the men in your family say, hold up, you all are actually wrong for being haters because what you're saying negates X, Y, and Z. So it wasn't even saying oh, you're wrong for your opinion. It was explaining, okay, that is your opinion, but why does that make sense? Because here are some facts. And then, because of all of that in the last 5 years, do you feel like that has changed how you read this book for your reread? Did it make you like it more? Did it make you like it less? Are you pretty even keeled and you kind of tuned everything out?
Great question. So I have really tailored my social media to stay away from stuff like this. So again, I love Danika. She's my everything. So my opinion of Danika remains the same. My thoughts and feelings about her character assassination and all of that are kind of like on page stuff in the later books. And just the way that everybody again is just like in Bryce's ear being like, oh, she's a bad friend. Oh, she's lying to you. Oh, she didn't tell you all of this. Oh, she did this and this and this and this and this. And Bryce constantly has to be like, no, she did this because of, she's protecting me. She did this because she loves me. She's doing this because of all of this. And Bryce eventually gets so tired of doing that she also starts to question like what Danika was doing. And like that is frustrating. And that is on page stuff in the later books. Here though is the golden like bloom of their friendship, right? This is like the bits of real life that we have of Danika on page, because she's dead. She doesn't come back. Everything else is flashback, is memory, but this is real life that we have on page. This stuff is so wonderful. And so to kind of circle back to what I was saying before about like some of the big moments still hit when Bryce is calling out for anybody at the gate, anybody to hear her. She just needs a connection. She needs an anchor to make the drop, and it's Danika, and the bone quarter is lighting up. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That got me. I was absolutely in my feels. I was absolutely crying. Like that stuff. You can visualize that stuff. Like, and it's dark and there's monsters and the gate is like all of this stuff. That whole sequence, like you can see that kind of stuff before. Like, they're down there, they're like talking, Danika and Bryce, they're soul ties and they're talking. And here's also something that I really like about it too, is the honesty, because, when Bryce is down there, I imagine it as like, the world is above them. And it's kind of like an ocean. They're at the very bottom, and she's like all of that. She can feel the press of the, and Danika's like, we got to go back. And Bryce is like, fuck you. I'm not going back. I'm going to stay here. And Danika's like, I'm not staying here. What the fuck? You're just going to walk around here all by yourself. Get the fuck back up there. And she's like, what? And Danika's like, oh, you have things to live for. What about the angel? And Bryce is like, what about him? Do you really think like I would trade you for some guy? And Danika's like, well, I mean, is he really just some guy? And at that point I was like, yeah, actually he is though. He is just some guy. Like, but in that moment, it's just like she needs that thing to like lift her back up or whatever. But all of that stuff still very much hit. And again, it's like that friendship. It's that like platonic love. It's just like, it's different than that romantic love. This book focuses on the romantic love very lightly. But up she goes, to hunt, and he has this whole thing like, oh, you cow, you fucking cow, all this stuff. You tell me all of that when I'm dying, whatever. He should have died though. Maybe hot take.
That is, but we talk about different expectations. You were saying earlier about like theorizing, and that we know that there is a third book out there that no longer exists because it was written and it was scrapped, and then we got the currently published HOFAS. For all we know, Hunt could have died there. I have a lot of theories of how this story can continue in various ways into different universes. Again, these are my own, like, I don't even want to say theories. Like, they're my own fan fictions that I've made in my head that would allow the story to go down various paths. But alas, they have not. We have everything on paper. Laura, I've shared with Laura many a times through many of voice memos of where I think the conversation should go. But it would have been, there's a lot of people who love Tamlin. I'll say that. And they want Tamlin to have the redemption arc. I am not one of them. I don't care about Tamlin in that capacity whatsoever. But if that's what you want and you can see it happening into the story, Good. Let's see it. Can't hurt. Here we are. I feel that way with Hunt, that his redemption arc for me would have been him sacrificing himself in book 3 and just pushing Bryce back into the universe out of space, and he gets, these are my thoughts. They are more coherent based on some of other, with Laura and some other parties I have, I will share with. But that is my thought. But again, this is where, Laura, you have shared this in our fanfic episode a couple of years ago. I think it's like a January or February one. How fanfics are always there. Fanfics are, continue the story in different capacities. We've covered it, with some, ships. And I feel like that's where we go here. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like there's just different variations that if you go into fan fiction and you do it with different ships, then if they don't exist, then they can never be wrong.
They don't exist. They can never be wrong. Okay. Yes. Fan fiction is always there to catch us. It is always there when we need it the most. It is there. It sees us when we're sleeping. It knows when we're awake. It knows if we've been bad or good. We're always bad on fan fiction. Here's the thing too. Hot take. This is me, Laura Marie. I'm saying it. It's me. Blame me. This was Sarah's last great book. To me.
Earth and Blood.
Yes. To me.
Okay.
I love this book. The last, however many are out after this, I do not love. I like them fine. There's a sliding scale to I like them fine to I really dislike them. But this one I love.
Yeah. I feel like this happened with when HoFast came out. We always have our initial reactions based on our first read. We just kind of word vomit everything. And emotions are very heightened. And then when you come back from that first read and you let time pass, people are like, actually, I kind of changed my opinions. Maybe it wasn't as great as maybe I was just too involved with it emotionally. This book, for me, still hits. And I know sometimes you revisit things and you're like, oh, this did not hit what was I thinking? What was I on? Where, we talk about being in a time and place. Where was my headspace in the time or place when I first read Earth and Blood? And I can still read this 5 years later and I still hold it so close to my heart that if I get a Crescent City tattoo, I already have a Throne of Glass one, it would be because of book 1.
Yeah. Book one is still just the absolute best to me because I am in love with this story's potential. And that is probably something to...
It seems like when you talk about I really like this guy, he has so much potential. You're not supposed to fall in love with potential.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is the perfect reason because it can only be disappointment. Because Jess, you were talking earlier about, and of course we're going to be wrapping soon, but we were talking earlier about how everything is there. It's all laid out, Rune and his starlight and Bryce and her starlight and the Asteri and all of the different races and how everybody interacts and how the world is kind of settled out and, the war and everything. But also Bryce's nails are always painted dusk or twilight. Always. And Hunt always has something to say about her dusk painted nails or her twilight painted nails. And she had
them read a couple times.
Yeah. And that's just that is the whole plot.
Yeah.
Those little throwaway lines are the entire plot of the whole series. And that continues on. And that is, again, I'm in love with the potential. That would have...
Well, even with the conversations that you and I have had, if you changed even the ending of HoFast, right? This is still set up for, it could have gone any of the ways that you and I have suggested and had those conversations about, of what could have happened without changing this part of the story, where it could have gone. And again, with theorizing, you're disappointing yourself. There are some things that we've theorized that we were like, it was so in your face, we couldn't even say it was a theory. It was just fact.
Well, and little things too, like the knife, one knife and sword, that's here, all of this stuff, all of, the universe languages, that's here, the gates, all of that.
Well, even it said, well, that's the thing. Also, I know one of the things with the end of where the book goes, the potential is here to have that, I need to step into my role. And by the end of the series so far, it was just like, which is also relatable in some ways when you're like just giving yourself your all, trying to girl boss too hard. And you're like, I just want a soft life. Like, that's the other part of it where it's almost like Aelin could have had a soft life and she didn't. She stepped into who she was because she ultimately knew that's who she was at her core.
You just made me angry all over again because I just remembered. I just remember what Bryce does. Like,
yes. That's why I get because I'm reading this book. I have it next to me. I'm reading that and I go, it's set up. And even where it goes in Hofast, where Sathya calls her out on her shit, and she was like, you were supposed to be this. There was the opportunity for her to be like, oh shit. I'm not, because who likes, that's the whole chosen one trope. I don't want to be the chosen one. And then you step into it.
Give me a chance. Put me in, coach. Put me in, coach. Like, I'll try. God, that just made me so mad again. Cause Bryce says something like that too in the beginning. She's like, Danika has all this pressure with the pack and, her part-time job and like all of this stuff. I'm so glad I don't have responsibility like that. And yet you bitch about not being fulfilled in your job. And yet,
and she like, takes on these, like, when it's like a show not tell, like she has that innate ability. She can totally do it. Look at her running through entire downtown Lunathia and through all of the quarters to save people. Like, that, what's that song? Labor, that her running is those moments. She is showing and not telling she is a leader. She can do it. She is capable. She can have the conversations with anybody. Nobody is lesser than her. And then here everybody is equal and it's set up. She needs more. She wants more. She doesn't feel like she can have more right now. This would have been that hero's journey.
I guess it's nobody else's fault that we're in love with the potential of this book and that I personally stay here and kind of wallow in this, in this potential and kind of fall back on fan fiction and be kind of take me in a different direction, kind of show me what else there could be. Because like, I just like you, Jess, I have like thoughts of what this could be, but it is just such a wonderful story about friendship.
Yeah.
That it is so hard to go into the later books and know that friendship is... Danika cannot defend herself. And that is the thing that just eats at me, is that Danika is dead. No one can defend Danika except Bryce, who has to guess. And that is so difficult and such a hard position to be in. But it was just like circumstance. Like no one, as much as Danika planned all of these contingencies, never in her wildest dreams did she expect Micah to walk into her apartment with, syringes full of synth and just dose that never fucking occurred to her. She was taken completely off guard.
With everything that we know that she was into from the later books, that was and she knew about synth. She knew about these other things because of Redner. Like, again, things that are on page in this book. But what we learn in the later and later on in the series, her mind was focusing on, she's a tracker. We know she's a tracker now. She has her mate, and even her mate, she was like, okay, well, that wasn't her priority. She loved him. She missed him. That's her mate. But she's like, there's a fucking bigger picture. Something's going on with our first light and our second light, and what the hell's going on with the Asteri. Things are in play, and not everything is what it seems. Micah wasn't even a blip when it came to being injected, because her focuses were about other courts, about Project Dusk.
Yeah, bigger picture. So when this, like, to her, low-level governor comes in, and it's just like, cha-cha-cha, totally off guard. Again, just in love with the potential on this, and the exhausting job of having to defend Danika. And I will defend Danika, because she went to the mat, and we will never know, everything that she went through, but we know that her love for Bryce was absolutely true. We know that she did everything that she could to kind of like lay a trail so that Bryce could do this. And we know that she was a good friend. And that is, I think, more than anybody else gives Bryce for a long time. Because yes, Juniper pulls Bryce back from the roof, but then she, essentially after that, she's just like, rehearsal,
Which was so crazy, because then and this is, again, we already have issues with Juniper and other books too, but then here she's like, you fucked me over with Madam Kira or something. You didn't show up, and I begged for her to hold that spot for you in her class. And Bryce said, I didn't tell you I didn't even want to go. I have other shit. She couldn't tell Juniper about that she was working for the government, for Micah. So she's like, I'm really swamped with work. I have a lot of work stuff right now. And Juniper's like, well, you need to be dismissive. These are the same friends who are telling her and being dismissive about, like, you're just an assistant. You're just this. You're just that. You're the other thing. You don't take your job seriously. And here she is taking it seriously, and then they're being dismissive of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just really, I have upon this reread, I have so many issues with Fury and Juniper. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we get a lot more time with Fury, especially towards the end of this book, with her, being there and her telling you things. But before we wrap, Jessica Marie, we have to address the scene where Bryce is on her knees and begging for Hunt. Jess, how do you feel about that upon this reread in 2025?
Here's the thing. Love me some Rune Danon once again. He's like, get up. You look pathetic. And here's the other thing. If, we talk about character assassinations, Bryce throwing herself at the comitium for a friend, totally in line with what Bryce would do. Bryce would do that for, her brother, for Danika, for her mother. That is the person who Bryce is to her friend. She was throwing herself for a love interest. And that part, because at this point, when she's doing it, they've already hooked up. They've already kind of like, I like you, you like me, with actions, not words. So I feel like and even I like that Rune stepped up. I know he hated having to use the quote old Fae law, like women are property. And he's like, no, because that also plays into leading us into Hosab and Cormac. But it felt out of character for a guy, not for a friend.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also just, though, humiliating. Absolutely humiliating in public, on camera. Everybody can see, oh my God. And then it's just so deeply embarrassing. And then to be shot down, just on top of all of that, to be shot down.
Twice. First it was the money, and she's like, I need $100 million. That's 20 more than the asking price. And they were like, LOL, no. And then she was like, okay, have me. And Sandriel was considering it, and I think it was just more for being like emotionally attacking Hunt. That's really what it would have been. And she's like, oh, I know your secret. You're the Autumn King's daughter, which, I mean, good for them for hiding it for 23 years, 25.
Yeah. Just be a princess. Let me do it. Let me do it. Let me be a secret princess. I'll show you how to do it. God damn. Everybody's a secret princess but me.
Let me be the chosen one, I say, as I'm like, I'm so tired. I don't know if I want to be the chosen one anymore. Where that's where I'm always like, Bryce is relatable sometimes, where she's like, I'm over it. I don't want to be the chosen one. But she never stepped into her chosen oneness.
She never stepped into it. That's the thing.
Like if Aelin, that's like, okay, talk about Aelin. When you and I, before Hosab came out, you know, there were a lot of theories about Aelin coming back. And you and I were like, no, don't come back. She needs to rest. She has been through enough. She has sacrificed so much. Now she can rest. It's been many, 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 many years. Bryce, it's been 2 years. You do not need to rest yet.
You do not need to rest. It's no big deal yet. Like, come on. Like, you can do it. It is just, again, this is where fan fiction will catch us when we fall. Because it is not it is not fair for us.
Right.
To be angry at where the plot goes, because it's not our story. We have no ownership of it. This is not ours. We can find our joy because, 2025, we're surviving. We find our joy in fan fiction. We find our joy in the community, a different community, because we are unsatisfied with where the canon has taken us. And that is just fine. That is what fan fiction is for, that, to find our very specific, our very niche joy. And I think that the continued support of all of our fan fiction writers should be at the forefront of all of our minds, because I feel like the issue here is that a lot of people are fans of this, and a lot of people have very big feelings, and
like us right now this episode.
Well, but more than us, we're gonna like people like fighting on the internet type feelings. And that is just not, I don't have the energy for that, and that is and so like that kind of passion can create an environment where respectful discourse is not something
you don't feel safe to like have those conversations.
Exactly.
No, which makes it hard where we're like, oh, here we are, because like we are just having this conversation amongst each other, but then it'll be public, and that's where we're like, ooh, hold our breath. But to wrap on a lighter note, and we're saying like fan fiction is there to catch us when we fall. Fan fiction writers are are additional artists of this community. They are putting in the work. They are putting in the thought. They are being inspired in every which way to give us, the readers, what we're looking for or trying to find. One thing that I think we've both loved with fan fiction is like, quote unquote, some are like crack ships, like, or that have become canon to us, or just have never existed and won't exist. I'll use an example. I was huge on Tommy Merlin. As much as everybody loves Elicity, during my Arrow days, I loved Flammy fan fiction, which was Felicity and Tommy Merlin. Total crack ship. Couldn't happen. Tommy dies in season 1. It was never going to happen. But there are fanfic writers out there who would just encapsulate these characters. I was like, oh my God, this is actually what happened. And I loved them as a couple. So on a lighter note to wrap, is there, based on, and we'll do exclusively with Crescent City, no, not Crescent City, Sarah J. Maas, is there a crack ship that you love with the, like, that would include Crescent City characters that you would be like, I'd explore a fan fiction of that?
It's not a crack ship, but I would do Bryce and Azzy. I would do Bryce and Azzy.
Yes.
Like that. It's not a crack ship. Like,
it makes sense.
It makes sense. Like he's got the knife. She's got this, it's fine. They're both very good looking. What's wrong with it?
And we know that they can go between worlds. We know that Thea did that with Peleus. Like, we know it's there.
Azrael's not in space. Azrael's smart. Azrael respects women.
I think he can keep up with her.
I do too.
And I think he would give her a run for her money, which sometimes she needs.
And I think she would make him smile and laugh.
Well, did you not read the Bryce Azrael bonus chapter?
Mm-hmm.
Did you or didn't you?
I did. I think.
Oh, you did. So that's another example where, like, okay, we have just this bonus chapter, and he's a little like our fair little club rat. She's like, I see you, Azrael. Okay. He'd have so much fun at the White Raven.
Right?
A little glow stick around his, like a little glow stick necklace.
I feel like but that's not a crack ship. That's just something that makes fucking sense. Jess, what about you?
That would be mine. It's not a crack ship at all. That would be mine. So please, like, put those recs in the DMs if you have any Bryce Azrael fan fiction. I don't know about a crack ship. I think, I mean, I would always love to bring Danika back. Like, give me more Danika. I can see her with, like, someone from the cadre.
Do you know what I was thinking? This is unrelated. I was thinking about all of the different kinds of shifters that they have, and they were naming like specific ones. And I was like, I wonder if one of those is Vaughn. And that's where Vaughn went in Throne of Glass.
Well, they're talking about the opening of the rift here. This is another thing where it's this book where it's like, it's really setting us up. Reading everything, they're like the Northern Rift and the Southern Rift, because then they had like butterfly shifters, and there was I don't think I realized how many shifters were. I also forgot that they would go in between forms. Like, what's it called? Anamorphic, where you would have Danika would either fully shift or be in human form. And then there was the humanoid form where she still had her ears and her tail. And I feel like I've only seen one fan art of that, like, in between.
Yeah. Yeah. See, again, I'm in love with the potential. Maybe that's the title.
Well, that's, you know what? And now it makes more sense. Like, it's just like another layer of fan fiction where let's do something with the potential.
Yeah, let's do something with this potential that we love so much, because we find ourselves a bit unsatisfied with the rest of the story. And that is okay. It is okay to find yourself in this situation. Again, fan fiction will catch us when we fall.
That being said, thanks you so much for celebrating our 5th anniversary. We can be found at Instagram at ACOFAE Podcast. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to y'all soon. On to another year. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. And happy birthday to Jessica. Woo.
Thank you.